What's up guys, Coach Az here. Today I want to talk to you about the side kick. In particular, how to execute it from a distance, meaning that we're not in range to simply lift our leg up and kick and fire it. We need to cover some distance to get there in order to execute the kick. The way I see it, there are three main ways we can do it. The first is the most obvious, which is we simply move forward, slide both feet into range, lift our chamber and shoot the kick. We could of course do this behind punches. So for example, I could throw my jab as I slide and then lift my chamber up and kick. The issue I have with this is our leg is longer than our arm, which means that if I'm in range to hit you with a jab, I'm probably not at the right range in order to hit you with this kick. The place where this would work is if you've got an opponent who's constantly backing up on you. If you know that when you throw that jab, they're going to pull back even further out of range, following that with this kick means that the kick would be at the right distance in order to hit them. But what if we want to use the technique in order to travel and throw the kick? For that, we've got two different options, and I refer to them as the one step and as the slide. The one step side kick involves bringing our back foot up to touch our lead foot and then lifting our lead foot chamber to shoot the kick out in front. Effectively, it's like a skipping motion. You're skipping up into that chamber and then shooting the kick. Now this is a really powerful way to throw the side kick. That stepping motion really allows us to put our body weight behind the technique and gives us plenty of time to load that chamber up and execute it with maximum efficiency and power. The problem I have with throwing a side kick this way is that it has a very obvious tell before the kick arrives. That tell is in the step. That one step motion before we throw the kick is telling our opponent that we're about to come forward and execute. And if you've got a savvy opponent who recognizes that, it leaves a large opportunity for them to step in and counter you. Not only can they step in and counter on this technique, but you're in quite a compromised position because your feet have come together. So if they time it right, they're going to catch you not only without a weapon, but with yourself off balance and unable to defend effectively. The alternative to this is the sliding technique. Now, I don't mean sliding in and then kicking. I mean lifting our chamber up at the initial point of executing the technique and then sliding in off of our supporting leg. The difference between these two is, in the one step example, it's like running into battle with your sword still sheathed. You're not ready for combat. You need to come in and then raise your sword, and in that time, you might get cut. However, with the sliding technique, what we're doing here is we've already got our sword up, out, and ready as we move towards our opponent. By this I mean, we've already loaded our chamber before we start sliding into range. This way, even if our opponent does attempt to counter us, we can simply stop the sliding motion and execute the kick on the spot. If they choose to back up, we can adjust the distance that we travel with that slide in order to hunt them down and still hit them with the technique. The sliding side kick still has a disadvantage, and for me that's that it can't generate the same amount of power as the one step. It's still a very powerful and very effective technique. However, you can't doubt that that one step motion allows you to generate a lot more force. But what's the point of having a super powerful kick if every time you attempt to throw it, your opponent reads it and reacts accordingly? What it loses in power, it makes up for in speed. Because we're executing that kick far earlier into the technique, that means that we're going to get to our opponent a lot faster with the actual kick. Now, if you're new to the idea of a sliding kick, here's a drill that you can do to help improve and build up the ability to shoot this technique. Forget about the kick itself. Start with just lifting your chamber and working on projecting yourself forward with that rear leg. You'll notice when you watch me do it that my rear leg actually turns almost backwards. That puts me in a far better position to slide and push off of that rear leg, allowing me to cover a greater distance. Once you've got that, you can work a simple drill which is lift, push, and kick. So you separate it into its three components: the lifting of the chamber, the sliding forward into the technique, and then the execution of the kick once you reach the right distance. Eventually, you want to build it up to a point where you're flowing through this technique. So as you lift that leg, you're already projecting yourself forward off your supporting leg and coming into range. This is going to maximize the efficiency and the economy of motion of this technique, meaning it's far more likely that you'll land it on your opponent and avoid being countered. The side kick itself is a criminally underutilized technique, whether it be in MMA or Muay Thai. So if you can start implementing it early, you can present something that most opponents haven't seen and therefore haven't really trained for. So this is just another tool in your arsenal. Take it, practice with it, and I will see you on the next one.